Hi, my name is Teresa Quinn, and I'm a social worker for the National Ovarian Cancer Coalition. And in this video, in our mental health resource library, we're going to be talking a little bit about coping with anniversaries and holidays and just hard days in general when you're grieving. So, like all of the videos in this section, it may be that you are anticipating or experiencing the death of a loved one from ovarian cancer. You may also be thinking about your ovarian cancer experience as a survivor through the lens of loss. And all of those are very normal and natural forms of grief. So when we think about grief, oftentimes anniversaries, holidays, just like difficult, significant days are really common anxiety that shows up for folks. And some really small tips and strategies can oftentimes help get us through those really difficult days, especially in, the first year after significant loss or after a diagnosis, right, when we're kind of just doing it for the first time. So just wanting to offer some like really concrete tips and tools to be able to help you cope with those difficult days. So the first being thinking through your year or even just like the next 2 or 3 months through the lens of those days. It's not that you need to set a plan for everything a full year in advance, but oftentimes what can feel like it sneaks up on us is particular days, birthdays, anniversaries that we maybe didn't anticipate, right? And so even just looking 1 month out or a couple of weeks out and maybe just thinking through, okay, what may be difficult, what's coming up? Maybe it is the anniversary of a diagnosis. Maybe it is, somebody's birthday that has passed. Maybe it's, the winter holidays that you've always celebrated. Some things will feel like very visible and other things may feel like just important just to name for yourself to know what's kind of coming down the pike. And as you think about what you're going to do for those days, I want you to think in terms of options A, B, C, all the way through Z if needed. Coming up with a plan for yourself can help just offer a little bit of relief for not needing to think through on the day what's about to happen, what's going to happen. So for example, it is, a major national holiday and you always spend it with, extended family. Maybe your plan A is to spend it the way that you typically have in the past, right? To go and spend time with that extended family. Maybe plan B is letting a cousin who's going to be there know, hey, if I am really not feeling it, I'm going to need to call you in the morning and come up, figure out if I'm going to come or not, right? Having like a safety support person. Plan C could be ghosting everybody and not telling them that you're coming and then reemerging 2 days later and saying, you know what, I just couldn't do it, right? You can come up with all sorts of plans and don't, in kind of that initial brainstorm, don't feel the need to kind of edit yourself, right? You don't have to choose all of them, but just knowing that there can be different options on different days. So coming up with those backup plans, if you do decide to go somewhere, so example in this kind of general example, a national holiday, right? You spend with your extended family. Notice, how are you getting there? Do you have an exit strategy? Right? Again, that may be a great time to lean on a support person to be able to say, hey, if you're going to drive me, that would be lovely. But I also, can we come up with a signal in case I need to get out of there pretty quickly? Or, hey, thank you so much for the offer to drive me, but I'm going to be taking myself, so that way I can park a couple of streets away and can leave if at the drop of a hat, if need be. So just noticing what actually would feel really good for you in terms of having an exit strategy. You may never need to use it, but it may just be supportive and offer your brain a little bit of relief to know that it's possible. Remembering that there's no timeline for grief and loss. And as you're processing grief in your own experience, there's really not going to be a perfect timeline. So I say the first year can feel especially challenging because you're experiencing holidays and anniversaries for the first time, right? But at the same time, there are sometimes things that during, future years feel more significant than they did the first year. So there may be a year in which, a diagnosis, the 2-year anniversary of a diagnosis just hits really hard for whatever reason. And the reality is We don't really need to figure out why. It just may hurt a lot, right? In one of the earlier videos, we talked about this idea of the ball in the box and hitting that pain button, right? And there may just be certain days or kind of anniversaries of even big and little moments that kind of sneak up on you, right? That you may not know, right? You may not be able to anticipate. It hits that pain button, and that's okay. I think even framing certain holidays, especially, but thinking about all of these days as they're just going to be ones that really sting. But another piece of this experience may be that the lead up in anticipation of the day may actually feel harder than the day itself. Believe it or not, it's a really common experience in my work as a grief therapist and private practice here in Chicago. I see a lot of grieving folks, and I hear a lot how often it is that actually the anticipation, like the week, especially leading up to it, oftentimes feels actually worse than the day of. The day of kind of feels like it comes and goes oftentimes. So trying to look as far in advance as possible, but knowing that there will just be some days that kind of pop up. Having a plan A through Z, if possible, really connecting with your support people who are going to listen and accommodate and support you in a sustainable way that you won't maybe have to explain everything to, can feel really helpful. And then giving yourself some permission to just have those hard days. All are ways to kind of support yourself as you anticipate especially difficult days arising, and knowing that there are lots of different tools and resources to be able just to be with the grief on those days that are really challenging. So knowing there's no timeline for this, and there are strategies and tools to be able to support you. But the reality is it's just about giving yourself as much permission and grace as possible to get through however you can.